As evening sets in here in Athens, the streets are quiet in central Athens here at Constitutional Square, but that was not the case earlier today around lunchtime when more than 30,000 public sector and private sector workers marched on the streets. They are protesting the government's austerity plans. These are the plans that the Greek government says they need to do in order to bring its budget deficit down, a budget deficit that's around 12% of GDP. European Union rules say it should be more than like 3% of GDP. Much of the pain is being felt by the public sector workers. Pension reforms, pay freezes, job cuts, they all face these measures because the government says that's the easiest way in order for them to cut the budget deficit. Private sector workers also took to the streets because they feel that tax rises will affect them, especially if there is a statewide value-added tax increase, as some fear. The European Union says Greece must do this year to bring this budget deficit down, and that it will be very tough indeed. The European Union and the IMF and the European Central Bank were all here in Greece today, Wednesday, to talk to the government to make sure that they will meet these requirements despite the strikes and the marches. For about a half an hour during the day, there were some violent protests by some of the younger people here. They were not part of the main marches, but they did battle with police, breaking windows, trashing some shops and restaurants. Tear gas was used as well. It was quite intense for about 30 minutes, though that did dissipate toward the end of the march. While the march was going on, I did speak to several people who felt it very necessary to strike today and very necessary to come to the streets to make their voices heard.
We fight for the youth, for the future of the youth.
The unemployment is increasing, as well as having too much troubles within our pension system.
They made the crisis. They are responsible for the crisis because they are trying all the time to get more money, taking those money from us.
Despite this one-day strike that crippled the airports and much of the public sector and the transportation, closing schools and banks, recent polls indicate that the majority of Greeks actually support the government's stance, saying they know that things are tough and they know that they're going to have to make some sacrifices to get the budget deficit back in order. It should also be noted that more than 70% of people in recent polls actually support this government in general. So even though many people took to the streets of Athens on Wednesday, the majority of people do not support their action. In Athens, I'm Jim Bolden for CNNMoney.com.